Hello, everyone, and good morning. Welcome to our live feed update for September 6th. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and I'm here today to update you on everything that happened yesterday. The Big Brother 26 live feeds. It was day 52 in the house, and we had an eviction, a blindside, tears, a new HOH, new one-on-ones, new plans for the week. With me to talk through all of it is Pooya. How you doing, Pooya?
I'm doing well. Also, no more third nominee. We're no more AI Arena. We're down to back to basics this week.
No more AI Arena. We are into the jury phase of the game, and we are past the halfway point at this point. So we'll see where the season goes from here. Now, losing AI Arena feels honestly a little bad at this point. It feels like things might feel a little bit slower, but on the bright side, it's not like we're getting a zombie week. So definitely not that slow.
Listen, we will take the wins where we can, and not having Zombie Week is a huge dub, no matter how you look at it.
Mm. All right. Well, I did just talk with Joseph. Rob and I spoke with Joseph. He had some things to say about his game. So you can check that out after this update ends. And in the meantime, let's get into this because, of course, we knew that Quinn was the HOH. He had nominated Joseph, and he had initially nominated Angela and then renominated Joseph with Rubina and Chemo on the block. Now, the last time we spoke, they had this 5-person, the people who voted out Tucker meeting, and there had been a push to vote out Joseph over Rubina, but Chemo, he definitely leaves. That was the whole thing. They get interrupted, and then they never end up reconnecting. In the morning, Chelsie and MJ agreed they wanted to keep Rubina over Joseph. And so that seemed locked in until Leah had a conversation with Chelsie, with Angela there, where she was pushing Chelsie that Rubina would need to go against Joseph. And Chelsie was agreeing. She was conceding to points with Angela there to essentially back up Leah. It seemed like there was a push in that direction that was potentially working. However, there starts to be a little bit of pushback, and once Chelsie starts pushing back that maybe there is a world where they could vote out Joseph, it opens Angela up to start pitching. Well, guys, what if we kept Chemo? What if we just kept? I think the Chemo would be a great person to keep. And they both shut her down. We're not keeping Chemo, Angela. It's not happening.
This was very funny to watch. The random, all right, how about this idea instead? From Angela, of all people, they were not having it at all.
They were not. So Angela kind of goes off and cries like, "Oh man, I'm gonna have to vote out Chemo. Nobody wants to keep Chemo." Meanwhile, Leah comes away from this conversation feeling like, nailed it. I flipped Chelsie. Chelsie is on board to keep Joseph. That's what we needed. She tells Joseph that she talked to Chelsie and that she got Chelsie to agree to keep him. Then at the eviction, Chelsie and MJ flip to keep Chemo. Unbeknownst to anyone that this would happen. We still don't know exactly how this came about, but they claim that it was not coordinated. It was a last-minute decision. There's a lot of different excuses running around. Chelsie says that she thought Angela was going to vote to keep Chemo, and that influenced her decision. And then she later claims that like she thought that Leah and MJ were both going to keep Chemo, and then because they were saying they couldn't do it, and then if they were saying they couldn't do it, then the votes weren't there anyway, and so then she wanted to be on the right side of the vote, and Leah's trying to claim that she knew the votes were there to keep Chemo, and that she was just giving Joseph a sympathy vote because he saw her as her number one, and it's a big mess.
Yeah, what's funny about all the running theories is that I probably personally subscribe to Mackenzie's the most, which is she kind of felt like through her beliefs and how she views things, that's kind of why she ended up leaning chemo. That to me feels the most authentic of all the other people. And I think it partially has to do with the way Mackenzie has carried herself throughout the game, that I kind of buy what she is selling. Everyone else, it's with a huge grain of salt for me.
Yes. I'll be curious to see how they show it in the episode,
Yes.
and what they say later. But um, either way, Chemo ended up staying, and Joseph was blindsided, as was Quinn. And there's a lot of stuff going on after the blindside. Leah's trying to do damage control again, trying to say like her excuse is not very good. She again, she's like, well, I saw everyone crying, so I knew that Chemo was staying, and therefore was just gave him the vote, Joseph. But it was because I knew Chemo was gonna stay. Um, Cam is like, I thought that's what we were doing, guys. Like he even goes like Rubina checks in on Cam, and she's like, how are you doing? And he's like, literally all week long, all I said was, I want to be on the right side of the vote. That's literally what was my one criteria, was that they tell me, and then they didn't tell me. Like I'm pretty frustrated. Um, Again, I think I've pointed this out a couple of times throughout the week, but Rubina has been opening up lines of dialogue with Cam lately. It's hard to know if there's anything significant that's going to happen there, but it's interesting to see that they're still communicating, especially after a moment like this. So that's worth pointing out. Chelsie also is going to apologize to Quinn, who finds out that it was Chelsie and MJ that flipped on him via Cam. And Chelsie apologizes and tells him that it's nothing against him, that she wants him still in the final five.
Yeah, this was very quick damage control in between the eviction and the HOH comp, where it was very clear Chelsea wanted to go out of her way to let Quinn know, we are good. This doesn't change anything in how I feel about you. I still want top five for you. This was key. Top five. Top five was kind of the key word for Chelsea throughout the night with Quinn specifically.
Mm-hmm. So, uh, a lot is up for grabs here in the HOH competition. We talked about this last night, but Quinn is in a lot of danger. Now, his tears and vulnerability, I think, definitely helps him, especially with Chelsie, who was feeling kind of bad and feeling like, Quinn wasn't mad at her, just sad at the situation. And she respects like how much he cares in general, which is very lucky for Quinn, because we then got to the HOH competition, and in that competition, Chelsie won the HOH for second of the season.
Which is very funny because the one person who you kind of heard what their HOH plans are before the feeds go down was Chelsea. And she told two different people that, yeah, I would put up Chemo this week because if Chemo goes, I didn't vote him out. It's not me. And I'm just writing this as I go along. And people are like, she's definitely throwing. And I was like, well, it makes the most sense for Chelsea of all people to throw this because I think she's safe through a lot of different lenses now with Joseph gone as well. Only for her to win. Now, Taran, tell the people how this win came about, because this is wild.
So it came down to a tiebreaker, and Chelsie, in her infinite tiebreaker wisdom, thought, I don't really want this one. I'm up here with a bunch of people I feel pretty good about. Cam, Chemo, like I don't think any of them are really coming for me. It would be great for them to win, and then they'll do a thing and it'll be good for me. So all right, tiebreaker. I mean, especially would be great. I didn't think MJ would be doing well. Here she is, right? So uh let me just put a really low number for the tiebreaker, because I have a good idea of what it is. Let me just put a real low number, and then somebody will definitely have like a better answer than me, and then that'll be how this goes.
Yeah, going low, banking on everyone else kind of getting closer to the answer. What she didn't quite bank on is that all three of the people she was in the tiebreaker with, in Chemo, Cam, and Mackenzie, go over the amount. So Chelsie wins by default here.
That's not how you throw a tiebreaker.
Mm.
That's not how you do it. It's not rocket science.
You just add a couple zeros, and you should be safe.
If it's true, if it's true that she was trying to throw, what are you doing, Chelsie? Come on, there's much better ways to throw than put a low number. You put a high number. Everyone knows that.
Yeah, she lets people know that she doesn't use the verbiage of throwing, but she mentions that she saw who was left and she wanted one of them to get the HOH letter. And so she didn't want this, but then ends up getting this. Mackenzie ended up being the second place finisher, the closest to the answer, but also over. So for what it's worth.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. I'm not mad at her winning. It's just like, if you are intending to throw, do it right. So Chelsie, the new HOH. And as Pooya pointed out, she already kind of had an idea of what she was hoping to do. And it's pretty similar to what she had done the last time she was HOH, which was make as few waves as possible. In fact, so few waves that she's going to just borrow the noms from the previous HOH, which is what she did last time, pretty much.
Yeah. Arguably the one waveless week of the pre-jury we had, you could contribute to Chelsie. And I think similar vein, she's going here. I feel like there's two schools of thought when it comes to Chelsie winning HOH. I think some people think this was bad for her, and I think some people could think this is good for her. I'm excited for us to break it all down, because I think when all is said and done, I'm not mad at where she's standing with this reign right now.
Me neither. Yeah, I think so far it's fine. There are certainly opportunities to mess it up, but she's not currently quinning it. So
it's hard to quin it. Not many people are capable.
The first person she really does a one-on-one with is Cam. Because she is going to do some one-on-ones. That is still the meta. I wonder if that will change now that we don't have 3 nominees. If the game will slow back down in that way, or change its pace, or if they're just locked into the current pace. But she talks to Cam, and this is an awkward conversation because she just blindsided Cam with that vote. He didn't want Chemo to stay. He would have argued against it, but he was willing to go wherever. He literally, he wasn't lying. He told them over and over, I just want to vote with you guys. I will do what is best for you. I just want to vote with you. I don't want to be on the wrong side of the vote. And then he somehow still ended up on the wrong side of the vote. So he's a little upset, but Chelsea's also upset because he cuddles with MJ.
Yeah, scratching the head and all. Not a fan of it.
So the conversation starts out kind of normal. She talks about how she's going to put up Chemo and Angela. She feels like that's probably the play, but she is a little worried about Quinn and Leah. And she asks him what he thinks, and he lets her know, honestly, if you're going to be worried about someone, I don't really know about Quinn. I feel like he's probably fine, but I do think Leah might come after you. And this is a completely correct read, and it's solid information that he is giving to her. But he's like, but it's not like Chemo and Angela are numbers for you either. I think you can totally put them up, or you could put Leah up. I think you have options here. But she's not super pleased with this information because she feels like, well, why would you want me to put Leah up when you're going to choose to protect Leah over me and not vote her out? He's like, sorry, what?
I genuinely, when they kicked off the one-on-ones, I thought this is going to be the most run-of-the-mill one-on-one. I might not even need to pay all the attention. It got very weird very fast.
It did. Because, so I think what happened here, and I could be wrong because this was a very long conversation and it was very convoluted. I think what happened is that Chelsie just was like, "Well, you're obviously gonna vote to keep Leah, right?" And he was like, "Yes." She was like, "Well, then why would I put her up? I can't believe you would choose to protect Leah over me." And he's like, "Wait a minute. Like, he's the one that suggested that she be wary of Leah. Of course he's not gonna vote to keep Leah against her will. I'm I'm sure he was just saying yes because it was the flow of the conversation. But like in the moment, she was just like that was enough of the confirmation, I think, to her to be like, I knew. See, this is why are you choosing her over me like that? Listen, I know you would put me on the block, and he's like, no. Why would I do that? Why would you think that? Like, what part of the game to you what action have I taken in this game that has indicated to you that I would ever be against you? I'm the one that just got blindsided by you in this vote. And she's like, well, your actions haven't been bad. No. But the things in between the actions, like the words that you're telling me are not always the ones I want to hear. And he's like, well, okay. The way you feel apparently is the way I feel right now about this vote and that you guys kept me in the dark. Um, and it's just, and she's like, but I just feel like you would prioritize MJ and Leah over me. And he's like, what? Do you think MJ would protect me over everyone else? She says, no. Like, do you think Leah would choose me over Quinn or Angela? She says, no. He says, well, there's your answer. I'm not stupid. I can be smart in this game. I'm trying to protect you and one other person. And she doesn't believe me when I tell her either. But I want us to be in the final three, even after she put me on the block. He's talking about T-Core.
Mhm.
And so he's trying to do this, but it's just the vibe is so weird and awkward because she just keeps saying that he's like she keeps saying as a fact that he's choosing other people over her. And it's just a strange vibe.
Well, it's very tense because I mean, think of it this way. You walk into this conversation with who you perceive to be your final two, or like you're one of your closest or the closest ally you have in the house, and immediately are met with, congratulations, you're safe. You're not going up this week. And you're like, oh, perfect. Nice. And you try and lean back. And then suddenly it gets a little accusatory, a little bit, you got some explaining to do. And you're thinking, I have nothing to, what do I have to explain? I've done everything that like, I've been very transparent from where I'm standing. So ultimately, I feel like Chelsie also recognizes later on in the night that she was kind of moving a little bit too harsh on him. But I think they're all fine now. But I think Chelsie definitely needs or needed the reassurances that she felt like she wasn't having. Obviously, his actions speaking loud are good, but then the words were not matching for her. So she likes the words of affirmation a little bit, the reconfirmation, which I can relate to. I'm a big words of affirmation guy myself.
I think the problem is she just wants him to stop cuddling,
But
but
she's
she
not gonna
doesn't
say
want to
it.
ask him to stop cuddling.
Yeah.
And so he doesn't know he needs to stop cuddling, or maybe he does and ignores it. And maybe he is the problem, but like they can't communicate directly about the cuddling for whatever reason, and that is the problem.
I think it's one of those things where you don't want to bring up the cuddling only for the other person to be like, oh, that is so not a big deal. Why do you even care? And then you're like, I don't care. And now it looks like you care more than you intended on letting on. And then it's a whole awkward bag of a situation. So you never want to bring up something that wasn't a big deal to anybody else but you. So I think she recognizes that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, because the second you say that you're upset about the cuddling, you're showing your entire hand, right?
Mhm.
And so it's I think that is the underlying cause of this. So she's instead focusing on the focusing on the strategic angle of it. Like, well, you're going to choose MJ and Leah over me, and what she kind of means is like to cuddle. But also strategic. Like, if you're going to choose them to cuddle over me, then you're choosing them strategically over me, perhaps. And he's like, no, I'm not going to choose them strategically over you. I'm just cuddling with them. And that's maybe the conversation they could be having, but they don't want to bring up the cuddling. Neither of them seem to be bringing up any of the cuddling.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm okay. There's plenty of awkward cuddle talk in this house for me to stomach. And by cuddle, I don't necessarily mean the word cuddle, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. So their conversation kind of gets interrupted, and then they go back. This is the longest one-on-one. I'm pretty sure it ends up being the longest one-on-one. Although MJ was kind of long, Leo, we'll see.
Yeah.
But it was much longer than the next few one-on-ones. And it was kind of noticed that how long it was. And so they end up breaking it up. Then Chelsie talks to Chemo. And it's pretty standard pitch from Chemo. He wants to work with her. He thinks that they can do well together. She says, I'm definitely thinking Angela for the block, but I have no idea who I'm going to do it for my other one, which is not a great thing to hear. She asks him who he thinks her biggest threat in the game is, the person who is the biggest threat to her game. And he says he's never heard her name. He doesn't really think anybody is threatening Chelsie. Which I think is true from Chemo, because who does he talk to other than Tikor and Ravina?
Yeah, I think what's interesting once the one-on-one started amping up is that Chelsie is clearly operating under the mindset that next week is a double. And for her, what she's trying to investigate through these one-on-ones is who would or could renom me or blindside me at a double. That's really her biggest concern here. So I want to put that and keep that in the back of everyone's minds when we get later on to talk about the overarching question of is her winning HOH a bad thing?
Yes, they're very convinced. Tikor thought this. Chelsie thinks this too, that the double eviction is coming next week. And to be fair, I thought it would as well. So I think it's a very fair thought to have. And Chelsie is concerned that she will not be playing in the double eviction HOH, and therefore is vulnerable to being retaliated against for this HOH, or just in general be put up, backdoored. She thinks that not a lot of people would want to probably put her up initially, but she could be an easy backdoor target. And so when she's hearing from Cam, who is saying, I do think Leah might be looking at you, which is true, she becomes increasingly concerned about Leah. But she doesn't want to put Leah on the block, and definitely have Leah coming after her if Leah's not going to end up going home. And so she is not really looking at putting Leah up, at least initially.
Yeah.
So she also talks to Angela, and she asks Angela where she's at. And Angela says, well, if I had won HOH, I would be putting Quinn up. He plays dirty. He's a liar. He's got to go. I don't like the guy. Outside of that, I wouldn't know who to tell you to put up, because everyone else is special and unique and wonderful.
Mm-hmm. But I want to also add in this. Angela added so much guilt trip to this one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
She prefaced the exact quote that Taran just put out about Quinn with, well, we both told each other we won't be putting each other up, so I'm counting on that. Blah, 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 Quinn. And this was very funny to me. The other thing that she's brought up, she was like, I do not want to be a I've been on the block 4 times. I don't want to be put up as a pawn. I don't want to be on the block. There's plenty of other people that have not had that. And I feel like her implication was there's plenty of people that haven't been put up on the block 4 times, but Chelsie very much is painting it as she implied that people who haven't been on the block before in some of her conversations later.
Mm-hmm. She's, please don't put me up. Please, I really don't want to go up now. I've been up 4 times. A lot of people haven't been up nearly as much. I don't want to. I don't want to. And you know what? This is a massive improvement for Angela, because most other weeks she said, listen, I understand that you're probably
I
gonna
get it. Mm-hmm.
So kudos to Angela. It's a bit late now. Once you start going up as a pawn, you tend to keep going up as a pawn. But and not that she's necessarily a pawn this week. But it's much better than what she was doing before. So Chelsie talks to MJ, and she says to MJ, you're safe this week. Don't worry. And MJ says she gets that this is a tough week to be in power because they're playing all sides. And it would be easiest to put Angela up, so she thinks that's probably a good call. MJ says, next to Angela, I think you should put up somebody that everybody really likes, the most liked person. I think you should put up T-Core.
Which is something she was telling Chelsie before the HOH as well. Something she was considering because in her head, logically, we put up T-Core. No one's going to vote T-Core out. It'll be fine. Angela goes, we're all good. And also, T-Core someone who has our backs. Rubina someone who has our backs. And to me, the minute you put T-Core up, you're kind of saying you don't quite buy the first one, even no matter how pawn she could be. Now, it helps that later on in the night, T-Core was talking to Rubina and was like, you know what? I could be an option to go up next to Angela because no one would vote me, but I don't want that. So this is not an incorrect understanding if your objective is truly to get rid of Angela, but I think it's a little bit too cute to assume that you still have them in your back. They have your back if you put them up.
And this is why I think it was a mistake for MJ to flip to keep Chemo or Rubina, because she dramatically underestimates the lack of relationship that she has with that trio. She thinks that that trio will remain a target for other people like Chelsie, but that trio is not a target for Chelsie. That is a relatively untouchable for Chelsie, and Chelsie kind of makes that clear. She pushes back really hard against the T-Core option. She starts talking about Leah. She says, I'm concerned about Leah. And she wants to even ask Leah, am I a blindside option for you? Which would not be the best way to ask that. But in general, she just is not sure who else to put up. She agrees that Angela should go up, but she does not really want to do T-Core. So who else? And MJ's like, well, who is it between? Is it like everyone or a select few people? And Chelsie says, everyone, except for you and Cam and T-Core. I will want to protect T-Core. And MJ's like, wow, 3 people you're protecting. Me, Cam, our trio, and T-Core, the person I just suggested you put up on the block. Well, you know what? That's totally fine. I only suggested T-Core because everybody loves her. Like, everybody loves her. So, like, it's like I didn't even mean anything by it. Like, it's totally fine that you want to protect T-Core. And you know, you would hope that this is a sign for MJ that maybe she made a little bit of a mistake and that maybe she needs to start reevaluating some things.
That will be a good thing for her if she does recognize that. This is an interesting place to be because as of this moment, I was looking at the short list and I was like, okay, so Angela's going up. I feel like Rubina's probably safe-ish. That really leaves 2 people, right? That was 3 people. That leaves Leah, Quinn, and Chemo as the person to put up. So that's something to keep in mind as we get into their one-on-one soon come.
Yes. MJ says, you know, you could put up Quinn. That could work. You know, Quinn would be an easy person to put up. You tell him, hey, I'm giving you the chance to play in the veto. And then, you know, he like the other side would probably keep him. Actually, would they? Maybe not. But it doesn't matter because me, Leah, and Cam are enough votes to keep him. It's 3 votes, tie, you break the tie. We could still keep Quinn. It wouldn't be hard. And so she kind of pushes the Quinn possibility as well. But ultimately, this is still going to come down to Chelsea's initial idea of Chemo and Angela.
Yeah, which I think for me, putting up Chemo, because I think the biggest question was why save him if you're going to put him up on the block immediately? And I think if you look at it from Chelsea's perspective, Angela's the easy on an island person to pick off immediately. Chemo, you wouldn't be in this house without me, and I just proved to you that I do not want you out because I kept you. So why would I jeopardize your spot? You are super safe. We're all going to keep you. It's no worries. And also, again, you kind of owe me. Like, she's not going to say you kind of owe me, but you kind of owe me. Like, it's an easy keep. And I think that's really what the logic is there with Chemo, because again, her biggest worry is putting someone on the block and then having them retaliate in the double that isn't a double next week.
Mm-hmm. So Chelsie talks to Rubina. It's a pretty similar conversation about options. She tells Rubina she's not going up. She says Angela's going up. She's not sure who to put up in the next to Angela, but you know, she's considering some options, so on and so forth. Fairly straightforward one there. And then she talks to Quinn. And she apologizes again for blindsiding him. She, again, is going to claim that she flipped because she thought MJ and Leah were flipping because Leah was crying and saying she can't do it. And MJ was saying she can't do it. And she was crying. And she's like, oh, the votes aren't there anyway. And I have to flip to come along with that. And he says, I believe you, which he should say, regardless of whether or not he believes her. She tells him, I want you to be in the final five, Quinn. I think you deserve to be there. I know how much you care about the game. I really respect that. I know how much you've given to be here, and I know it would change your life if you won, and I would be really happy to see that happen. And I think that she means this. I think that she, again, I feel like, it's very easy to villainize people, but when you see Quinn like uncontrollably sobbing after you blindside him, like, but also not blaming you and coming back to you, you're kind of like, oh, he's like a little puppy, you know?
I think that's definitely the impression that Chelsie has of him. Kind of bless his heart, he's going through it. Also, she definitely lets him know, if I was not to win, like you winning would be pretty great to me. The story you have, the passion you have for this game. So I definitely think there's something there. On top of that, though, I did kind of feel like she's giving him a lot of positive affirmation. And to me, that signaled, I think Quinn is one of the people she's worried about sniping her in the double for
Yes,
sure.
yes, and she said that to Cam, right?
Mhm.
She is definitely concerned about Quinn, but does want to leave him around. Probably, I would not say that Quinn is out of danger this week by any means. It's basically, and we'll get there, but like what it comes down to is if there is a replacement nominee, which odds are decent that there will be. It's going to be a battle between Quinn and Leah for who goes up as the replacement, and honestly, likely the target. Because if either of them are up there, why are you not voting them out? Especially if you're Chelsie and you just put them up there. But we'll see. That's all later stuff.
Yeah.
Quinn does have one thing to say before he goes. He says that this season he really wants a winner that's like sick nasty. He wants a sick, nasty winner. And you know what? Chelsie would be. He says, please don't be offended by this. But I was thinking about Big Brother past comparisons. I really feel like you're like Danielle Reyes, you know? You're just like really likable, but you talk your and I think that you're like really good. And listen, I would never tell anybody else that because I know I shouldn't be telling anybody that you're like a legend, but that's kind of what I see. And she's like, oh well, thank you.
Listen, that is high praise. A huge compliment in the game of Big Brother. If someone tells you you're like the Danny Reyes, you're playing that level, I will take that as a huge compliment and run with it. But also in the back of my head, I'm like, so you do see me, you do recognize me. That's not, you're totally gonna double snipe me in the double, dude. Like you're totally gonna do that to me. So I felt like everything was good. And for the most part, I still think this compliment will be fine, but also it could very much play a key reason in why you don't want to risk missing your shot on Quinn.
I also don't think it's an apt comparison for what it's worth. not like because not in the sense that like, oh, she could never be as good as Danielle Reyes, but just like their play styles are very different. And I think their personalities are pretty different too.
Yeah. I mean, it's just one of those things, right? Where when someone tells you that, whether or not you feel like it's accurate or you fully take it hook, line, and sinker, it's still one of those things where you should feel, that's how you see me, kind of scared. Because are you going to be loyal to me or are you just going to try and get rid of me when you have the chance?
So Chelsie talks to Leah. And she does kind of question Leah, like, how close are you with Cam? Would you choose Cam over me? And Leah says she wouldn't, Chelsea, that's not really what I've heard. When I was on the block, I heard that you were campaigning for me to go over Cam. And she says, that's not really true. And even if it was true, it's all Tucker's fault. I'm not even close to Cam. I definitely feel closer to you. And that's, I think, pretty true. I mean, in terms of where they stand right now, Leah is not particularly close to Cam in the way that Chelsie fears. But Leah leans very heavily on any, like, possible bit of tension or desire to get you out or anything like that. Anything close to that, it's all Tucker's fault. Tucker told me a lot of stuff. He was definitely lying. If I ever felt a weird way about you, it's because he said something, but it was very confusing from him because he was always telling me you were coming after me, but I didn't really know if I believed it, and so on and so forth. And it's all just Tucker's fault. This is a classic, just blame the evicted person who can't defend themselves, and also somebody that the person you're talking to doesn't like in the first place. So it's very easy to lay blame upon their feet. And was it Tucker's fault? Not really.
Well, this is a voucher that's good for one time use. She has used it 2 weeks in a row. So I'm like,
Yes.
all right, this is your last time to get to use this card. The guy's been gone for 2 weeks. You have to move on.
So they get through that. It takes a while. It's kind of awkward, but they eventually do go through nomination options. They land on Angela and Chemo. Chelsea's very much playing up the like, oh yeah, we're still definitely together, even though you're my renom option.
Yeah, and it's important to note that if the veto was to be used, to what Taran said earlier, I think heavy-handedly Leah is currently the odds-on favorite. I think Chelsie really wants to honor that Quinn gave her complete safety and no renom last week. She wants to give him that in return. But I still think there's quite a few people there that would want Quinn up and would be trying to be very convincing to have Quinn be put up. So it's definitely possible. But right now, it looks like Leah the renom. Quinn is not the renom.
Yes. As I mentioned before, I think that it will kind of be a competition between the two of them for who can stay off the block. And Leah tends to be better at that, but she's currently losing just based on initial positioning. Because Quinn has the comp win from last week where he kept Chelsie safe. She feels like she owes him a bit more. It's like, people always talk about comp wins. You want to throw comps. You want to don't be such a threat. And like, yes, Quinn is a threat because he's won competitions, but he's also got some social credit that he can trade in that gets him above Leah right now. But Leah could certainly overturn that. She tends to be good at buttering up to the HOHs. So we will see where all of that goes.
Yeah, I think one thing that I've noticed Leah has done with pretty much every HOH is vocalize, I really hate people that are going to come in here and kiss your ass for the week. Every HOH, he hits them with this line. And it is kind of disarming because it's a very true thing. Everyone's going to go kowtow to the HOH. Very rarely do you get someone not giving them that face. And by breaking the fourth wall a little bit like that, you could come across like you're not really about that life. And again, I think a lot of the things Leah says should not work, but they do, which just gives credit to the confidence to which I think she speaks on things in these one-on-ones.
Mm-hmm. So Chelsie talks to T-Core, and she brings up the plan to nominate Angela and basically target Angela, but she will need another nominee. She says she does not want to put Quinn up after last week. Now, after this week, all bets are off. The floodgates are open. We can target Quinn all we want, which is, in my view, such a blatantly obvious, I'm not going to do it, you do it.
Yeah.
But it works. She says she is considering Chemo as the pawn option. They should have the votes to keep him regardless. And if they take out Angela, that's great. If they need a renomination, Leah is probably the person that she's thinking of. And now here's the thing. Last week, very similar conversation happened between T-Core and Quinn, where he talked about Rubina being used as a pawn. And T-Core did not like it at all. She was very upset with Quinn. She hated Quinn. She still wants to target Quinn because of it. So this is a very dangerous thing for Chelsie to do, right? No, T-Core's fine with it. She thinks it makes sense.
Yeah, I think Chelsie has this ability that not a lot of people possess, which is she kind of got everybody that she talked to in her one-on-ones. She got them to understand her perspective, put themselves in her shoes, and then agree with what she wants, even if it is a detriment for them. We saw this a little bit with Cam. I think we're seeing this with T-Core because T-Core was really energizing downstairs for this one-on-one. Like, I'm not scared to name names. I'm ready. Let's do this. I'm going in last because I got things to say. And then she her way through most of it and was like, yeah, that makes sense for you. I understand where you're coming from for you. Chemo and Angela going up, Angela being the target makes sense. And there wasn't a lot of pushback. I didn't really see a lot of pushback later on in other conversations. So it kind of worked.
Yeah. I think this is possibly a thing to look out for if you're ever playing the game. You ever find yourself like the same action is taken against you, but you feel very differently about it depending on who's doing it? That is a sign that the person that you are not mad at is your biggest threat in the game. Because they are either much better at the game than the person you were mad at, or you just like have a predisposed weakness to them that can be easily exploited. And I think it's, the obvious quick comparison here is Quinn and Leah, where like Leah can basically do whatever she wants, and Quinn will just be like, goddess.
Oh,
And
you are monologue. You are reenacting a monologue later, Taran. You get ready. You get ready.
in there. So like it's such an important thing, obviously how you approach a thing matters, but it also matters just like what kind of relationship you had with them in the first place. And Quinn always misread his relationship with T-Core, and thought that they were closer than they were. T-Core has never been the biggest Quinn fan, and so when Quinn does the thing, it's a lot easier to be mad at Quinn. But T-Core has always had a fondness for Chelsie. And so when Chelsie does a thing, it's a lot easier for Chelsie to smooth that over and get T-Core to be on board with it. Now, that doesn't mean that T-Core might start thinking, wait a minute, should I be kind of annoyed that Chelsea's doing this? It's not impossible that the spell gets broken at any point, but definitely a dynamic that is harder to pin down in terms of analysis because it's so relationship based and sort of perception based. So interesting stuff. But T-Core, as I said, basically is saying, I'm chill with that. That's fine. I think it makes sense. I don't like chemo going up. I hate chemo going up, but I understand the logic and I think we'll get through it.
Yeah, and I think what's important to point out for Chelsie as well is that I think she correctly recognizes that, T-Core's probably going to come up here with Quinn's name in her mouth. So let me also not only mention quite a few times actually, that I'm just trying to give him the courtesy that he gave me last week to protect him. But then also she does bring up a couple of times. She's like, I will say though, Quinn loves us. He will protect us over anybody but Leah. That is something that we should potentially keep in the back of our minds. We could still put him up and get rid of him. That could happen. But that's something we should keep in mind. And it's a very interesting through line because I do hear later T-Core mention that maybe talking to Quinn at some point, and even in this conversation, she said, maybe I should talk to Quinn and see where that goes. But also, anytime talking to Quinn comes out of T-Core's mouth, you have to take it with a huge pinch of salt because is it going to happen? Is it even going to mean anything? Who knows? But I think there's validity there. I don't disagree. I think Quinn would ride for both of them as of right now.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if Leah is gone, maybe I do think that they've played with their food quite a bit at this point. Like who knows what happens? But so T-Core goes ahead and tells Chemo about the plan. She kind of backs it up. She says it makes some sense. She understands where it's coming from. She's going to talk to Rubina about it as well. She says, you know what? It's fine if she wants to keep Quinn around. I want to take him out myself next week anyway. So definitely still looking at Quinn as a target. Chelsie also talks to MJ again. They agree Angela should be the target this week, the primary target, the one that they hope they can get out this week. So they are sort of angling in that direction still. We'll see if that holds for the whole week. And Quinn talks to Leah.
Here we go. We sit up for this. Continue,
Listen, Quinn, he's got a way with words, like if Jacob Jones was here, he'd be swooning, I think, because Leah says, Quinn, you're all I have. Are we? He says, no, we're going to win. Listen, Leah, I will move mountains for you. I will extinguish the sun. I will swallow clouds and fart thunderstorms, okay? There's nothing we can't do when we're together, okay? We're going to make this happen.
Why you gotta be so intense every time? Like, you can say these things without using the fart thunderstorms. Is Chemo in the room with us? What is happening? Why? Too much. It's too much. I've been married for 4 years. I'm not saying fart. I will take fart.
You're not willing
on.
to swallow clouds and fart thunderstorms for Liana, Pooya?
Maybe I'm not good enough. But I feel like and maybe I can read my relationship. I think she's okay with me not saying that to her.
I bet you wouldn't even love her if she was a fly.
I would love her for. I did hit her with the sick nasty copy paste this past week because she wasn't up to date with the feeds. She Googled it. She was like, it looked like a copy pasta. I Googled it. I figured out it was Quinn. She didn't even give me the meme moment. If I hit her with this right now, she'll figure it out as well. She can't get anything past her. But no, fart thunderstorm is yeesh. No, Taran.
Yeah.
Would you say that to another human, Taran?
No.
Exactly. See, we're on the same page.
I mean, who would say this to another human other than Quinn?
And the funny thing to me is these big speeches, monologues always come prefaced with the lightest question. Like, are we okay? Then this happens. It's never like it was a back and forth, and you kind of one-upping each other a little bit. It's never that.
I wish I could, like, I would give you the clip, but it's very, like, he whispers it. Like,
yeah.
It's not as good a clip as the,
Thoughts?
You're sick nasty.
That one. But yes, it was very dramatic. Are we gonna be okay? No. We're gonna win. No, that was the wrong one. Hold on. We're gonna win. I will move mountains for you. I will extinguish the sun. I will swallow clouds. I will fart thunderstorms. There's nothing we can't do when we're together, Leah.
Of course I have a crush on Leah. Who wouldn't have a crush on her?
And the funny thing is the show is going to probably put something like that together with that audio and then slap that spring noise and friend zone stamp on it.
It's going to be this one. I will move mountains for you. I will extinguish the sun.
Yeah. Thunderstorms is going to get the...
Yeah.
And
I will move mountains for you. I will extinguish the sun. I will swallow clouds and fart thunderstorms.
Yeah. It is... Here's what I will say. Cringe factor kind of up there for sure. But I'm very thankful that he is how he is and he is saying these things because we get to talk about these things and they get added to the lore. The whole sick nasty monologue from last week is going to be etched in the history books. He's in the history books. I know he's going to love that, maybe for the wrong reasons, but take what you can get. I'm thankful there's some goofy stuff for us to poke fun at. It's a good time.
All right. So that was basically what we had going on here. Pooya, anything else that you wanted to bring up from yesterday?
Yes. In the Angela and Chelsie one-on-one, I did mention there was quite a bit of guilt tripping. One of my favorite guilt trips that we didn't touch on was Angela bringing up her grandkids and that they're sad grandkids, and if they don't see their nana on TV, they're gonna be very sad. So don't make sad nana happen. So keep me in the house. I thought that was a funny plea. I mean, again, I think Angela did the best thing she can do in the position she's in, which she's been doing this for a while now. She basically offers her vote to the other person and says, you'll have 2 votes. That's pretty good. That's good. And also don't put me up. I think she's doing a dandy job trying to keep herself off the block. The combination of being a pawn for so many weeks and also volunteering it quite a few times, and also not really having a true tight allegiance that anyone's going to want to retaliate on you putting her up, kind of damns you to be the first nominee, no matter how you look at it. So,
yeah, I think in comparison to before, I don't love the guilt tripping in general. I don't think it tends to work, but it's a lot better than the opposite of guilt tripping, which is it's okay if you do it.
Put me up. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is what we've got. Chelsie plans to put up Chemo and Angela Angela is right now the target. She would love for the veto to not be used. If it is used, she currently plans to put up Leah. If Leah goes up, she is likely the target. If she goes up in Chemo's place, which is probably the more likely person to be pulled down, then it would be Leah versus Angela. At which point, again, I would imagine that you just vote out Leah at that. It's just, why would you bother voting out Angela there? If she replaces Angela, I think that it's potentially even easier to take out Leah. But there might be some pushback, like, hey, maybe this is our chance to take out Chemo and weaken the trio. There could be a scenario where you know, she loses hold of MJ, and then MJ, Cam, Quinn, and Angela herself could all kind of, but it would require Angela to vote out Chemo over Leah. There's a few different ways this could go. Of course, Leah could talk her way out of being the renom, and it could be Quinn instead. At which point Quinn would definitely be the target. And he could very easily go as well. And then anything could happen. Really, like, there's plenty of time before that replacement nominee would need to be named, and so anybody else could get in some trouble. Cam could get in some more trouble. There could be more movement against the trio. Who knows? But that's kind of what we're looking at right now.
Yeah, and I think for me, for Chelsie, I think ultimately the way she's trying to get her positioning in this week is ideally Angela goes, and you have this one side of T-Core, Rubina, and Chemo, and this other side of Cam, Mackenzie, and then Quinn, maybe on an island, maybe connected to, with Cam. Either way, there's these two sides that are going to be looking at each other, and Chelsie can sit plop down in the middle. She already talked to T-Core about getting in a room with Chemo, Rubina, and locking something up. I think that's her vision right now, is to kind of sit in the middle come this next week. And I say sit in the middle to other people perception, sit in the middle, but she clearly has her people that she wants to ride with. It's not that she doesn't care who goes. She's going to have some care. But I think the biggest thing that I've learned about Chelsea's game is that she's a lot more willing to take the risky shots and do the blood stuff when she's not the HOH. When her HOH is happening, it's chill times. We're going with the smooth waves. We're not going to cause a ruckus. Someone else's HOH, I don't care. Let's cause a fire. Doesn't matter. So for some people, this might be a boring week. I personally think that there's still going to be some fun here to kind of see how everyone walks on tightropes, especially with them thinking it's a double. So we'll see how it all shakes out.
All right. Well, that is what we have for you then today. Of course, as I said, we talked to Joseph earlier, so you can check out our exit interview with Joseph. Rob had some interesting questions for him. We will also I'll be back tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, to update you on everything that happens today on the Big Brother 26 live feeds, including the nominations and the fallout reactions to those. Later today, I'll be live with Rob for the Q&A. The patrons, if you want to call in, you can do so. If you're not a patron, you can watch it live. It will be at 4 p.m. Eastern. You cannot watch it not live, just like the feeds. That's roughly what we have for you. Sunday, we'll be back with another episode. Check out the scripted coverage we have going on. Going to be talking some Rings of Power soon. The Circle also coming up relatively soon. Pooya and I will be talking some Circle soon.
Hell yeah. We'll see. Listen, they have big shoes to fill after last season, in my opinion. Can they stack up? We'll find out together.
We'll find out. All right. Well, that is what we have for you then today. Thank you all so much for joining us, and I will see all of you next time.